Hey y'all, so not Christy. Yeah, I'm Sherrie. You all know that. Well, most of you know that. Um, and I'm here this week to give Christy a little bit of a break. So I have a message. We'll see how it goes. So, October is a very busy month. It includes National Coming Out Day, National Bosses Day, Pastor Appreciation Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and is the month of Libra on the astrological calendar. Libra is usually shown as a woman holding scales, weighing things, finding balance. October is also the height of fall, or spring if you're in the southern hemisphere. The balance between the seasons, the ending of the harvest or the beginning of planting. It's a time of reflection. The school year is far enough along to take a look and see how things are going, to determine if a change of direction is needed to find success by the end of the year. For me personally, it's the month after my birthday month, also a time to reflect, a time to enjoy the end of the southern summer heat. And whew, it's been hot. A time to start preparing for the holidays. And this year, a time to become a boss at work. Now, I've been a boss before, but this time it's more deliberate. Within the space of a few months, I've somehow managed to accumulate a team of people who can share my workload. And this sharing of my workload is long overdue and very welcome. But it also made me start thinking about how best to be a good boss. Not just someone who asks people to do tasks, but someone who is fair, who teaches and empowers, who cares about how these people are doing now and how they will be doing long term based on what I can give them or what I can do for them. So how does a leader know how they're doing? Boss, leader, head of household, mentor, teacher, manager, president. These are all people who take on, sometimes willingly, sometimes not, the responsibility for helping the people who choose to follow them. And I use quotes because it's not sheep and shepherd. It's much more complicated than that. And I think it warrants some further thought. So the president or any big name leader can easily look at social media, the news, polls, and surveys to see how they're doing. What do their followers think of their performance? Their so-called followers. Are people following them, or is there big opposition? All that information about what people think about them is out there for everyone to see. But what about your everyday small-time leaders? The bosses, preachers, teachers, small town council members. How do they know if they're doing well, if they're respected, if they're loved? They can ask their followers, but that presents a problem because it's the person with the power asking the person without the power, or the people without the power. There's an imbalance there, and the answers are always going to be skewed. Large companies will often do 360-degree reviews to try and get around the power imbalance. These are anonymous surveys about how management is doing. They do tend to yield more truthful and illuminating results than just asking individuals. But ultimately, you don't know which boss is great, which is problematic, and which bunch are just somewhere in the middle. Because in order to maintain anonymity, the data has to be aggregated or grouped together. So how do you know? How do I know? How does any leader know? Being in community involves a massive level of trust. If I ask Christy how I look before I leave the house, I can trust that she will tell me if I look horrible. And, it does happen. And she can trust that I won't get upset because I really do want to know before I leave the safety of the house. It's a two-way street. I want to know. I won't get upset if she tells me I could look better, and I trust that she's looking out for my best interests. If that trust isn't there, then it may not be possible to get an honest answer. Am I a good boss? Who knows? I try to be. I try to listen to what my team members say. But what if they don't say anything? How do I proceed on a day-to-day basis? How do I keep being a boss year after year? What if I suck and no one tells me? What if I'm great and no one tells me? So, can a leader tell how they're doing based on the actions of their followers? I don't know. Let's look at that a bit. In the Bible, Pharaoh was a horrible king to the Jews. I mean, seriously, he enslaved them. But he was the king, and they did what he told them to do. Israel did not rise up in protest. They politely asked to be set free. Power imbalance there. We all know that didn't really work out for them until Moses, who had some power, got involved. And what about Jesus, who in the Bible is the greatest human leader of all time? How did his most devoted followers act towards and about him? When the Romans came for Jesus, the disciples ran and hid. They didn't protest. They didn't even stand watch and hold space for him, except for the Marys. They didn't say, wow, this is so wrong, we should do something. Did Jesus know how much the disciples loved him and respected him when he was being tortured by the Romans? And what about before that? Did Jesus know the disciples loved and respected him when he was constantly having to chastise and correct them? Did Jesus go to the desert to pray and commune with God, or did he need to get away from the needy disciples? Did the disciples ever give anything back to Jesus, or was he always the one putting out the goodness? The disciples could have done so much better. So why didn't they? Excuse me. Why didn't they? I think the truth is that they didn't really understand how to support Jesus. Just like the Israelites didn't know how to support Moses in the Old Testament, the disciples didn't know how to support Jesus. It's been 2,000 years since he lived, and I would argue that we don't do any better today supporting our leaders than the disciples did with Jesus. In a hierarchical system, leaders are often alone at the top, somehow seen as the embodiment of and spokesperson for a community, without really being a complete member of that community. There's an entire library's worth of information out there about how to be a good leader. Inevitably, leaders are told to be available, set the tone, listen to needs, celebrate victories, be a motivator, connect people with each other, be flexible, draw the map for others to follow, empower others, and to always, no matter what, be positive. Are these reasonable expectations? Who cares? Oh wait, some people do care, because there's more and more information out there about self-care for leaders. Ultimately, however, a lot of the self-care for leaders boils down to finding a balance within yourself as the leader, so you can be, you guessed it, a better leader, a better role model, a leader who doesn't get burnt out. But self-care only goes so far. Just like introverts do need to spend time with other people, and extroverts do need alone time, leaders need time and space to be not leaders, just members of the community. just a person who has shown love and respect from other people. So in this busy month of trying to find balance, I urge you to look at the leaders around you, the leaders in your life, and remember that first and foremost, they are each just a person, someone who needs love and community, someone who might be feeling left out of the community they most care about, as shown by their leadership role. I urge you to include them in the community. I urge you to think about what might lighten their load in the same way you think about helping other members of the community. And then I urge you to take action. Because just as faith without works is dead, prayer for your leaders without action is very much invisible to those leaders.